Hi, welcome back to the Cryptoinvestar Podcast. My name is Daniel Reinhardt, and in today's episode, we have Mr. Haren. Mr. Haren, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
I want to understand more about stocks, how to invest in stock, basically, because I want this episode to be for a common lay person interested to invest in stocks, but they don't know where to begin from, and they don't know which company they should invest in, and why, and where, and how much they should be investing in.
Well, I think investing in the stock market you should establish the proper philosophy. And when you invest in the stock market, you should not be thinking of stocks as a price you see on your screen with a graph moving up and down. You should be thinking about stocks in the same way you would think of, say, an apartment building. And when you invest in an apartment building, you feel like the rents from the apartments will pay for your mortgage and long-term appreciation. So when you think of stocks, you should think of it that way. You buy a stock because you like the business. You believe that the business will grow over time. And you're not thinking of the price tomorrow. You're not thinking what the short-term price fluctuations will be. So when you think long-term, and you buy a basket of different stocks, odds are you're going to make a lot more money over time.
Wow, that's really amazing. You've had something called tokenization, right?
Well, there's ETFs. So I launched an index, and we're launching an ETF. Now, there's a new rule coming out with the SEC where ETFs are going to be tokenized. But to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about that world. But I'm in the stock market world. I'm in the ETF business. I don't know too much about what tokenization will mean. But I do believe that it will reduce the amount of the exchanges have on the stock market and ETFs in general. So it'll be more accessible and easier to trade and have immediate settling of the transaction, where right now it currently takes 1 day for the cash to actually be transferred to your account. Once you sell a stock or you buy a stock, it takes about 1 day. But with tokenization, I believe you'll get immediate settlement.
So I really want to understand this from a common lay person who has not been into the stock industry. Is buying a stock the same as buying a share of a company?
That's exactly the same thing. So you buy one share. So let's say you have a company that has 100 shares. Keep it really simple. When you buy one share, you're buying 1% of that company. So, when you buy Apple, and if you wanted to buy 1% of Apple, you might have to buy, 100 billion shares, or I'm not exactly sure how many shares. I think they have 100 billion shares. So you buy 1 billion shares, you would acquire 1% of Apple, or you could buy one share and you get, a minuscule percentage of that company. But you have a right to your proportionate share of their earnings. So the more Apple earns, the more you're earning. And, they pay out a certain percentage of their earnings in dividends, and the rest get accumulated in the form of retained earnings. And they use the retained earnings to go and potentially earn more money by retaining it. So either way, you're still making your proportionate share of Apple when you buy the one share of Apple based on the earnings.
Oh, okay. Why is it that whenever everybody is trying to explain about stocks and the entire business of buying stocks, they refer to the biggest companies in the world, like Apple, like Google, like Meta? What is so special about them?
Well, those special companies are truly special because they have what's called a monopoly. So it's very hard for another company to come in and take over their business. So they have what's called their main monopoly is network effects. So to give you an example with Apple, Samsung actually has a better phone, but
You're saying
the
Samsung?
Samsung has a better phone, but Apple has the ecosystem, and people do not want to leave that ecosystem. Most likely, in order for people to leave Apple, somebody would have to come out with a phone 10 times better, 10x better than what Apple has now. Otherwise, people are ingrained into that system. Now, when I text somebody and, I want to see that blue message, I want to see delivered, I want to see, read, I give read receipts. So that's the point, is that it's an ecosystem that people do not want to leave. Same thing with Instagram and Facebook. So people are on Facebook and Instagram. Now, if someone were to come out with a new platform, nobody's on it. So no one's going to join it. So it's just,
I've seen
a
what
lot of
happened
value is
with
created in that.
I've seen what happened with there's this company called, what was it? It was there are these companies that oh my goodness, I'm forgetting it. It was also another social media, I think from India, from I think from India, and it came up, and it was more like TikTok, something like TikTok, but so amazing, and it was advertised everywhere, and I think around 10 million people joined it and died.
That's surprising. What I haven't heard of it, but 10 million is pretty substantial if they got that many users and that quickly.
They had something like 10 million.
So it must have been a technology problem. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure, but TikTok
It's
came from
really
nowhere.
funny how there are a few companies with so much power.
Well, if you think about the past, so the past monopolies were manufacturing companies or railroads. They were constrained by actual material. So, they're actually manufacturing something or selling something in a store, and that is more constrained. Now, monopolies are just bits on a computer. That's infinitely scalable. It's very, very hard for someone to come in and, take over when something is defined by network effects, where it's like millions and millions, and or I guess a billion people using something every day. It's too hard for someone to come in and take those users when for example, I use WhatsApp to communicate with people out of the country. Now they're using WhatsApp, I'm using WhatsApp. If someone were to create a new one, it'd be too hard for everyone to go and adopt that, because we're already using WhatsApp and they're already on it. It's just so
I think it's only TikTok that has done that in a very long period of time, that has come out of nowhere and taken everybody by storm. And I think platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, they had no idea that somebody could come out of nowhere and take over their space.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
I was referring to TikTok, how TikTok came.
TikTok came out of nowhere. Yeah. So TikTok, they invented a new way of distribution, which is up and down scrolling and keeping it shorter. Our mental capacity is just getting shortened and shortened. We were watching 2-minute videos before, and now it's 20 seconds. So you're right. They came out of nowhere, but it's going to be very hard for someone to come out with something that's going to replace those ecosystems now, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard.
So, which means them being with monopolies of being with the strongest ecosystems and of course millions of users, it makes them safe.
I would not call them safe. I think Google is coming out with something now where you can upload your entire photo album to Google, and it will be much easier for you to create AI pictures of, say, you and your family, you and your pet, and people are doing it. So, I mean, the amount of data that these companies have on us is a huge privacy concern. But, I think the NSA has had much of this data anyway for a long time. So I'm not personally concerned with privacy, but I know it's a big deal to a lot of people.
Yeah. So when it comes to investing in these stocks, of course, okay, everybody can invest in any stock regardless of where they are in any given country, right?
Well, at least US stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, US stocks are accessible to anyone, anywhere.
So I can invest in any US stock, whether I'm in Africa, whether I'm in Asia, whether I'm in Europe.
That's right.
So who should invest in a stock?
Well, US stocks are, I think, and historically has been the case, the best place to be buying stocks. Why? Because the US has a system of government that allows for innovation and for leaders to continue innovating and creating these huge companies, while other companies or other countries kind of put a target on the back of leaders that get too big. Versus the US incentivizes the Bill Gates, the Jeff Bezoses, Warren Buffett's, Elon Musk's to continue going. And that's where true innovation comes from, is from just allowing these true value creators to keep going and incentivizing them to go. I mean, they don't have to go to work. When things get too difficult politically, often, in other countries, they stop working and they don't want to deal with the headache of having to deal with politics. But in the US, we have our problems, but, in the world, we have the best system to allow these true value creators. I mean, it's no coincidence why every big value creator in the world has come from the US. It's not that we're the smartest, it's that our system allows for them to keep going.
Yeah. So, which kind of
look what happened to Jack Ma. As an example, look what happened to Jack Ma in China. Now, Alibaba got too big and too powerful, and these platform companies got, regulated by China. I think Jack Ma was kidnapped for a few weeks in China. So, in the US, we have a system that allows for these winners to keep going.
Wow. So my question on my mind is still, I'm so much interested to know who should actually invest in stock in terms of income.
Well, everyone should be investing in stocks, no matter how old you are. The older you get, the less of your money should probably be in stocks, unless you have a lot of it, in which case, you could put it all in stocks. But when you get older, you have to worry about safety, and the stock market is very volatile. So you have to be willing to lose 50% of your money in 1 year. If you can't withstand losing half your money, you can't own stocks, because the stock market goes up and down. Now, the point is that over the long term, that you should do well, but over any short-term period, you're exposed to losing half your money. That's just how the stock market works. The best saying is from, I think, Charlie Munger. He said, if you can't withstand losing half your money, you don't deserve stock market returns.
Mm.
So, you know, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, they lost more than half their money, I believe, at least 3 times. And, you know, they're one of the richest people in the world. So everyone should own stocks. The older you get, the more you need your money, the less stocks you should have. And the younger you are, the more you should be buying stocks.
So, which means the person can start investing in stocks as low as, okay, I can say I'm going to be putting in $5 every single week.
You should be buying index funds. If you're putting in $5 a week, you should be putting it most likely just in index funds and let that accumulate. And, you know, don't look at it once you put it in. The best thing you could do is make investments in the stock market and not look at it. The more people look at it, those are the ones that don't have the big returns. There was a study actually here in the US. I believe there's a study. It might have been just a story, but anyway, the story was that Fidelity did a study on the best performing accounts and who had them. The best performing accounts were people who died and did not, and Fidelity didn't know that they had died, and no one had inherited those accounts yet. Those were the best performing accounts because no one traded it. It just stayed invested. So that's how you make high returns, is buy and hold for a long time.
Yes, I think you've talked about debt and investments. I've been recently reading about more of tokenization and all that, trying to understand how tokenization works. And I think for what tokenizing is doing with things now like stocks, it is, instead of you creating accounts, stock accounts in your name, in your Gmail, and then somebody else is managing them, or the stock company is holding your accounts on your behalf, tokenization is creating those stocks, turning them into crypto tokens, and then those crypto tokens are stored by individual people. You hold them, you hold stocks in terms of tokens. So it is you holding it, you as a person, not the company where you bought the stocks from.
Yeah, I've heard about this. I have one concern about that, is about voting. So how does voting work? So currently, you know, if a company is doing poorly, the shareholders can vote out leadership and put in new leadership. So I'm not exactly sure how tokenization allows for like annual voting of directors and executives.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that this will be addressed at some point, but I'm not exactly sure how this works currently. But I do like the idea of tokenization because currently, you know, index funds are the largest shareholders, and they're not even really voting for leadership. So when you have a company with, let's say, a poor performing CEO and nobody really owns the shares besides index funds, there's no way of really getting them out, and they just kind of abuse the system and you know, take salaries. They come to a mutual understanding with the directors. You know, you will pay you and you pay me, and no one could really change that. So I'm hoping tokenization, you know, once there's voting and index funds, or it replaces the index fund where currently no one's in charge right now with index funds.
It's something to really think about. If there are no centralized accounts that the company is holding for people to vote and decide and make decisions, how will tokenization enable voting and decision making. Let's say you've bought into a tokenized apartment and it has like 100 rooms or 100
Units.
yes, apartment, like an apartment with 100 or 2,000 rooms, and you want to make renovation or you want to change this and that or price of this and that. How do over 3,000 people or 500 people holding shares in that tokenized apartment vote for this or rent increase or decrease, yet everybody's owning their tokens independently and just watching or having documents? It's something to think about.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, it'll be better because at least you get individuals making their own votes. So currently the system is not really well done with ETFs where, for example, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street own like 20% of most stocks, and they're the largest shareholders by far. So they control all the voting, but the actual beneficial owners are people like us that own the ETFs. But then BlackRock and State Street Vanguard have all the voting power, and they're not even really voting. So it's like, no one's in charge currently. So with tokenization, we could bring the voting to the actual beneficial owners that actually own the security. So I think it'll be a big improvement once that happens, I think.
Yeah, I also think that it brings in a question on do they, okay, yes, you own the shares of your tokenized assets or whatsoever, but do you actually understand the economics of what you're voting in? Because at least if the board is doing the voting and they know what they are doing, they have reasons put down on what they are doing, they are like 20 people making a decision or 15. Imagine if it were 700 people or 7,000 people making a decision and they all have to
Well,
vote
I think
in.
that would I think that would lead to better decisions with having 700, even if you have a market where a lot of people don't know, what's better. But right now, when you have voting done by three people with their own, or three companies with their own interests, that creates a bigger systemic problem than having, 1,000 people where, maybe 80% of them don't know what's going on. At least you have a market of individuals voting for their personal interest. That's a better system than three people voting for everybody else. That system is more corrupt.
Yeah, you have a point there, because you do have a point, because at the end of the day, if people really had the brains or the intelligence to make a decision to invest in your stock or tokenized assets, then they definitely also have the capacity and the brains to make decisions. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it's really true. So what is inside ownership index doing in this entire stock industry?
Right. So we created a more accountable stock market index. So the S&P 500 invests in companies based on size. They invest in the 500 largest companies in the US, proportionally investing in companies based on their size. So the larger the company, the more they put in there. Inside Ownership Index, we created one more about accountability. So the more the leadership owns, the more we proportionally invest in that company. So it could be nicknamed the skin in the game index. So the more skin in the game by the leaders, the more we should trust them. And in fact, looking back at data and history, it holds true that the companies where leadership owns more of the company, those companies have done better. They have performed better. Why? Because the leaders care more, they're more innovative, they have better corporate governance, they're more shareholder friendly. So just a lot of data points show that when leaders own a large part of their company, it performs better. So my index
you mean
is
you
a
mean
better way of indexing.
you mean, let's say a company is having what example should I use? Let's say okay, a company is something like worth $10 billion, and out of 10 billion, 6 billion belongs to the team. 4 billions are made in for the public investments and all that, maybe the shares that they will buy. And the team is like for around 7 people or 15. If those 15 people are owning 6 billions worth of that company, you tend to think that that company will last more. Is that what you're trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is that when a situation like that occurs and you buy into that company, you know that the leaders of the company care about one thing: creating value. You know that you're on the same side of the table as them. They care about growing that company and creating actual value. Now, if you invest in a company where the leaders own nothing, what do they care about? They care more about their salary. They care more about retaining control. And obviously, third, they care about growing the company. But the primary focus becomes their own salary and remaining in control. So when you look at the best performing companies in the US, it's where the leaders own significant dollar amounts of that company, where 90% of their own net worth is tied up in that company. So
What?
they go to bed thinking about it
Isn't
and they wake up
isn't
thinking about it.
90 a lot?
And 90 is a lot. Well, look at Elon Musk. Like, look at his wealth. Like 99% of his net worth is probably tied up in stock of companies that he controls.
Wow.
Right? And he doesn't know, he doesn't have cash. I don't even believe he owns a home, or he might own a home, but it's not large or anything. 99% of his net worth is tied up in companies that he controls and owns. So, we know that's what he cares about. When you
Okay,
buy Amazon, Jeff Bezos will fire the CEO if the CEO is not doing well. Now, when you buy into a company like Intel, who's going to fire the CEO for not doing well? Nobody owns the stock. It's all owned by index funds, and I think the government owns some. So, there's no one there to really protect shareholders when you own a company where leaders own nothing.
Okay, let me ask at obvious companies. How is the ownership of Apple shares? Who owns the most? Apple.
I believe Berkshire Hathaway owns the most of Apple. So currently, Steve Jobs owned a lot. He passed away. Apple is one of the few exceptions of companies that have done well once the founder has left. So, most companies go through a period of, Apple hasn't really innovated, but the stock has done well because Steve Jobs has created something, very amazing, the whole Apple ecosystem. But the next leg of disruptions to come, Apple is not going to participate. Apple has not even really made any investments in AI. So what's coming for the future, Apple's not going to participate. So if you're thinking about where to invest your money now, find leaders that are innovative, own big parts of their company, and are making bets into the future. I can't think of a single bet Apple's making for the future other than preserving the iPhone business that they have now.
Okay, so inside ownership index is basically there to guide people who want to invest in stock know where to put their money. It gives them a list of companies that are doing well and bad so that they make the right investments.
Yeah, index funds, low-cost index funds, which I am, are really for investors who don't know what stocks to buy and want to participate in the market in an efficient way. And, most people don't know what stocks to buy, even when they think they do. This is why 90%, 92% of professional money managers don't beat the indexes anyway. So really, most people don't know what stocks to be buying. So the more you understand that you don't know, the better you do. This is a paradox. I think Warren Buffett said this. Once you acknowledge being dumb money, you stop being dumb money. Because once you acknowledge it, you put your money in index funds, and then you end up doing great because index funds have done great, and most people don't beat it. So I created a system where you get to invest in the best leaders in America versus the S&P created a system to invest in the biggest companies in America, while mine focuses on essentially the most successful leaders.
So when you invest in a bad stock, you can easily lose your money forever. Just like, okay, I've been in the crypto world for so long, and I know when you make a bad crypto decision and invest in a wrong crypto token, okay, without reading, without understanding the team, knowing the crypto vision and mission, why it's there, and you just look at an amazing website, people posting about it on Twitter, and you simply invest in, you can lose your money forever and ever. The coin dies, the coin gets delisted on exchanges. Even if you invested in $10,000, it can drop from 10,000 to 6,000 to $600, $60, $6 until zero, and you actually lose everything. Is it the same thing that can happen to people who invest in stocks anyhowly?
Absolutely. When you're picking individual stocks, you are exposed to losing all your money in each individual stock. But when you invest in index funds, you're just not going to lose all your money. Now, it can go down in value temporarily, but over the long term, index funds are designed to basically put more money into the winners. That's how index funds are designed. When you're losing money in one stock in an index fund, you will have less and less allocation to that losing one. And as different ones are growing in value, you have more and more in the growing ones. That's why index funds are so difficult to beat. Now, there was a study in 2018 by a professor at Arizona University. He figured out that 4% of all stocks produced all the gains in the entire stock market. The other 96% matched US Treasuries, which is like 3-4%. Now, all the wealth gain came from just 4%. But index funds did so well because it does not sell those high-performing stocks. It keeps them. So that's the beauty of index funds, is you get exposure to the best performers without getting out of them if you were to buy a stock, you would probably sell it after earning 100%, 200%, maybe even 1,000%. But index funds will hold it, and you can make, Amazon went up, I think, 300 times. So, 30,000%. Berkshire Hathaway went up 50,000%. So index funds don't sell. It just keeps holding these extreme winners. And that's how you make money in the stock market, is buying and holding good companies without being tempted to sell them. It's too easy to be tempted to sell when you have a little bit of gain. But it's these few extreme winners that pay for all the bad losses. If you that's how venture capital works too. If you make 100 different bets, and maybe 90 of them lose all their money, but one of them pays for all the other losses. And that in stock market, it doesn't work in that extreme way, but it has the same law, basically, a power law, where a few winners pay for all the losses.
Wow. Okay, one of the amazing questions that I have is okay. Okay, I don't know why it comes to me, but whenever I hear something like stock markets, I think about basically an individual who is looking at making money passively, maybe an individual in their late 40s or 50s, and they want to retire and then make money off stocks without needing to hustle a lot. I want you to draw me a picture. I want you to make me understand how much money should a person invest in stocks for him to be able to make a living off stocks. Also, is it possible for a person to make a living, pay bills, pay rent, drive a nice car, pay for fuel, travel countries, like do all the expenditures with just stocks? Does
I think
stocks pay per month? Can a person get some small money off his stocks every month? I want to understand that.
Well, there's a way to do that. You have to be skilled, and I don't recommend this for most people, but if you have a significant amount of stocks, you could sell what's called options, call options. So that means you're selling some of the upside and getting income in return. And it's a little bit complicated. I wouldn't recommend it for most people, but you would need a significant amount to be selling calls prudently, to be collecting income. And, again, I don't recommend it for most people. If you're skilled at picking stocks and selling calls, then you wouldn't use an index fund. You should just be picking stocks and, making active decisions. But for most people, I recommend just buying index funds and, live with ups and downs, and you'll be better off for it 5, 10, 20 years from now.
Okay, so basically it is safe to, okay, meaning a stock would be buying land so that you will wait for like 5 or 10 years and then sell it when it has gained value.
Well, I don't recommend ever selling it, to be honest with you. I mean, if you buy a good company, like imagine buying Berkshire Hathaway in the 70s, that you made, I think, probably 1,000 times your money. So for every $10,000 you put in there, you made $10 million. Can you imagine that? So, why would you ever sell it? As long as you have Warren Buffett there.
But at the end of the day, if your money is just on the dashboard and you're not using it, at the end of the day, you will need the cash to live, to spend, because
exactly. So that's when you sell. That's the only time you sell, when you actually need the money or you have something better to buy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just selling it because you have a gain, that turns out to be a mistake for most people. Now,
Mm.
you sell stock when you have one of two reasons. You need the money, or you actually have something better to buy.
Mm.
Otherwise, just keep holding it.
Yeah, true. I really understand. So, um, you recommend before a person buys into stocks, he should understand what he's going to invest in them, and inside ownership index is doing that. That is the service.
Yeah, there's two ways of indexing essentially. You could index to company size, or you could index to leadership.
Mm.
Basically, my focus is on leadership.
Mm.
And that is the true driver of success in organizations, is the leaders. It's not the companies itself. Leaders, I'm sorry, companies are just a group full of people.
Yeah.
So essentially, we're indexing to the people in charge of those companies
Mm.
versus the common index fund is just indexing to the company's size.
So how does inside ownership index get to know how much the leaders are owning, what percentage?
Every US company, every company in the US reports how much the leaders own in a proxy filing every year.
Mm.
So we simply just take that number that they give us. We know exactly how much Elon Musk owns of Tesla. We know exactly how much Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos owns of Amazon, and all the way down. So it's very easy.
Mm. So what made you build inside ownership index? Did you lose money in a stock?
Yes. Well, both. I realized that I'm not good at picking stocks, as most people are not, but it was actually out of fear. So I'm a big Berkshire Hathaway shareholder. I bought Berkshire Hathaway because I trust Warren Buffett. Now, I've been going to his annual meeting since 2017. And in 2024, I actually got afraid. I thought to myself, what am I going to do with Berkshire Hathaway when Warren Buffett dies?
Mm.
And I came to the realization that the S&P will buy more Berkshire when Warren Buffett dies. Why?
Mm.
The S&P is what's called, this is complicated now. The S&P is what's called free float adjusted, meaning that they do not count Warren Buffett's shares when they calculate the size of Berkshire Hathaway. When he dies, his shares will be distributed to foundations and ultimately sold and become free floating. Now, I thought this is the opposite direction.
Mm.
Why would anyone want more Berkshire Hathaway after Warren Buffett? We should want more while he's there. Same with all the other companies and their value creators. So look at Tesla. Now, who wants more Tesla if Elon Musk were to pass away?
Mm.
But that's exactly what the S&P would do. If he were to die, S&P would be buying more Tesla.
Mm.
Or let's say more realistically, if he were to sell all his Tesla and focus on SpaceX.
Mm.
Now, Elon Musk is one of the best leaders to ever live, but he is erratic. Now, it's not out of the question that he could say, you know what, I'm done with Tesla. I'm going to focus on SpaceX. If he did that, this S&P would buy more Tesla.
Mm.
And my index would be out because we're focused on how much he owns, how much the leaders own. So if
Yeah.
he's not there, leadership doesn't really own anything. So we would be out. So we focus on the value creators within the organization. Now, a company is just people. Now, if you have a very successful company and all the people that are responsible for that success are now gone, replaced with new people, is it really the same company? I argue no. But the typical index fund treats it as the same company. Now, I don't believe it to be that the case, and neither does past data. Past data shows that once leaders gone, most companies start to erode. Now, there's a lot of examples of that right now. Look at Nike.
Yeah.
Phil Knight is gone. Look at Starbucks. Howard Schultz is gone. So these companies are no longer the same companies. Once leadership goes, the culture changes. Look at Lululemon. Lululemon has lost its CEO founder, and it's no longer the same company either.
Okay. One of my last question. I want to understand the numbers of people that are losing money in stocks compared to numbers of people that are losing money in crypto. I want to understand from you. Of course, you are into stock market. I'm into crypto. I understand that so many people are losing money in crypto, and only a few people who have been lucky to invest in variable crypto tokens are the ones that have made money, and those who have been able to be patient. Okay, they invested in the right crypto and also became patient. I understand that crypto is so volatile that people lose money so quickly. So how is it in stocks? Are people making money, or so many people are losing money?
Well, I think with stocks, at least most people understand what they're holding. Now, when you buy a share of Apple or Amazon, you own your iPhone, you love your iPhone. When you buy Amazon, your package gets delivered every day or every 2 days. You just know that they're creating value that we can see tangibly every day. When you buy a crypto, you don't know what you own. And when you buy crypto, the only way you make money is if someone comes and pays you more for it later.
Yeah.
When you buy Apple, you're getting a percentage of their cash flow, of their profits. You're getting a percentage of their, and you know that, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they're going to have more profits than they do today. When you buy crypto, you really don't know what someone's going to pay you for 10 years from now.
Yeah, in most cases.
So I think that's the difference, is that maybe the price goes up with crypto over time, but there's nothing reinforcing that belief. And that's what it really comes down to, is that having that belief and holding through when it gets difficult. That's when the real money is made, is holding. And when you don't have a system that ensures you holding through the difficult parts, that's why I don't recommend, buying the best investment is not the one that makes you the most money, because often the best ones are the most volatile ones, and those are the hardest to own. The best investments are the ones that you could actually hold and hold through the bad periods. That's the best investments, the ones that you mentally know that you could withstand.
In the stock market world, are you guys having so many stocks coming on board every single day like we do in crypto? Because in crypto, we are now having, I think, over something like 70,000 crypto tokens, or even 100,000 crypto tokens. Are you guys in stock having like 5,000 coins coming up every single day or week?
No, it is a lot harder to take a company public, but there's more ETFs than individual stocks now. So ETFs are a very highly competitive place where there's more combinations of different stocks you could do than individual stocks. So there's more ETFs now than individual stocks. But there's still a lot of ways to lose money in the stock market. So, focus on the long term, buy good companies with good leaders. Now that's the important part. Companies are just people at the end of the day. So buy companies with good leaders, and you will do well.
Yeah. How I want to get your final remarks on what you think the future of stock market is going to look like with tokenization. When you close your eyes and you're trying to visualize how tokenization is going to change ownership of stocks, what comes to your mind? What are you looking at that is going to happen?
Well, I think it has the opportunity to really fix the systemic problem that index funds have currently. Now, index funds are taking more and more market share. So the problem with that is that nobody really owns the stock. Nobody is voting for bad managers. So right now, when you have a bad CEO and bad board, and they're abusing the company and just taking high salaries and really doing nothing, there's nothing in place to get rid of them. So with tokenization, we bring more accountability. Shareholders could collectively vote them out versus right now, it's the ETFs that own all the shares and no one's voting. So I see a world where tokenization could fix that systemic problem.
Definitely. It has been so nice having an amazing, constructive chat with you, Mr. Haren, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for being at the Crypto Investor Podcast. I think my people are going to love you so much. They're going to take your insights very positively, and it has been really amazing having a chat with you. We shall be hosting you for any other time you feel like you have something to share with us. Please always come on and let's have a beautiful communication like this one.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you guys for listening. This is the Crypto Investor Podcast, and my name is Daniel Einhart. You can listen to this from wherever you listen your podcast from Apple Podcasts, from Amazon Music, from Deezer, from iHeartRadio, Spotify, Zeno FM, everywhere from wherever you listen to your podcast from. Always listen, share to your people. If you find this very insightful, share it to your friend. Thank you for now. Bye, and let me see you soon in the next episode.